let's see if we can get a little further on this Sarah Boone letter. We ended with the top of page 8. She's talking about her lawyer. Very frustrating. Underlined. 1. To balk or defeat in an, are you kidding me? Is she defining the words for us? Okay. I'm not going to read it, but I want to do something else. I'm going to look something up. I need to look up a phrase here. How about this, Sarah? This is from the Cambridge Dictionary. You can look up a whole phrase. A pain in the arse. Definition: someone or something that is very annoying. Do you know what annoying means, Sarah? I'm not talking to the viewers when I'm saying that. Not being condescending to you. I'm trying to give back to her what she is handing out here. All right, let's move along. So much I presented my solution in order to coexist with and work together in a hopeful, progressive, positive, appropriate manner. I added pretend judge to our interactions so she could calm down and ease up on her condescension, offensive demeanor, and obvious prejudgment. She seems, like everyone else, not to remember I am innocent until adjudged. I think she means adjudicated. Otherwise. All right. What the heck are you talking about, Sarah? So much I presented my solution in order to coexist. What solution? I guess we can't know because it's lawyer-client. But obviously, the solution wasn't going to work. A, it didn't work to help you coexist and work together. B, it's more of the same nonsense. You do it my way or it's wrong. And this, I added pretend judge to our interactions. What? Dear any lawyer who has to deal with Sarah, you can play pretend judge with her, maybe. Just don't play hide and seek. All right, pretend judge to the interactions. Sarah is treating this lawyer like a 5-year-old in the same way she was treating Mr. Torres like a 5-year-old. She was having him sit down to do artwork. Well, it turns out that the guy was an artist in his own right, but she is going to have him sit down and do this artwork. I guess she's the activities director at school camp or at day camp or something? What is this? Baby lawyer camp that she's putting on? She's going to play pretend judge so she can direct the lawyer. What? And I guess it's the lawyer who needs to calm down. Many, if not all of you, have encountered this at some point in your life where somebody behaves in a way that is maddening or frustrating. And in case you don't know what frustrating means, look at one paragraph above. And there are people who purposely will pick at you and figure out what your buttons are so they can push them. And if you are the child of such a personality, well, that parent knows what buttons to push because they installed them there. So if you've been in a relationship or situation, interaction where somebody is purposely baiting, purposely pushing buttons, acting horribly, and then turning it around and blaming you, and then saying, calm down, like you're the one who is unreasonable. How frustrating is that? And I go back to what she said earlier in this letter on how she accused those in the criminal justice system of deflecting shame and how much that irked me. And it wasn't the accusation so much, but I'm telling you how you feel so I can then judge you. I'm putting that on you because I want to shame you. So I'm just going to say you're ashamed. And how do you argue that? You say, I'm not ashamed? Oh my gosh, you're not ashamed? You should be. See, you're not even ashamed. It's a setup. If you're in a relationship, whether that is a partner relationship or a work relationship, any kind of relationship, and somebody starts telling you, this is how you feel, which is different from asking, are you feeling this? or even suggesting, I think you feel like this. And when you say, no, that's not it, don't tell me how I feel, the person should be backing off and saying, oh, okay, I misunderstood. But that's not what's happening here. That's not what was happening with her remarks about shame. She's putting that on them. And now this business, calm down. I'm going to drive you out of your flippin' mind, but calm down. And the person doing it will sit there or stand there perfectly calm because they know what they're doing. They're doing it on purpose and they enjoy it when you get upset. And people have asked me in work situations, how is it that you're not upset about this, that, or the other thing? How come you didn't get upset? How come you didn't yell back? It's not that I don't feel anything. I'm not inhuman or cold. It's that I know this person's trying to bait me. It's this person's issue, not mine. And by flipping out in return, I would simply be rewarding that behavior. So if Sarah is behaving like this with Ms. Cashman, you can understand why Ms. Cashman might say, I'm not doing this, I'm not having this conversation. And if Ms. Cashman, who, by the way, is a defense lawyer and a defense lawyer has dealt with all of this sort of thing before, Sarah is not the only personality like this. She's not as unique as some people think she is. They've seen this before. They've dealt with this nonsense before. And so if Cashman doesn't play the game or take the bait the way Sarah wants, well, let's see if we can make other people think that Cashman is some sort of a raving lunatic who needs to calm down. How she's inappropriate. And what is this? Not positive, not appropriate. You know what's not appropriate? Zipping somebody up in a suitcase, kicking him down the stairs, or even if he got in there on his own. The minute he says no, you don't respect that no? That's not appropriate, Sarah. It's not polite. Might be frustrating. Might be criminal, but okay. So, other people have to calm down. Ease up on her condescension. Do you think that the average person doesn't know what the word frustrating means? Do you think the judge doesn't know what the word frustrating means? Let's just go at that. That's a pretty basic reading level, right? Is this not condescending? Offensive? I think laughing at a man who's begging for his life, I think that's offensive. Just a bit. Do you? Do you think it's offensive to publicly make allegations against somebody that may affect their career, affect their reputation, could get them in trouble, and to make those allegations in such a manner that that person is not able to defend themselves head on against such allegations? Is that maybe offensive, inappropriate? Obvious prejudgment. I suggest to you that the lawyer has some experience in general and with Sarah in particular and is aware of all the materials in Sarah's case. So I suggest to you that it's not prejudgment, but hey, I'm not there, so what do I know? And of course, the lawyer is like everybody else. Everybody else is the problem. And she says not to remember I'm innocent until adjudged otherwise. If we ever get to a trial and it's televised, I want to figure out how to cover it live. If you guys can handle all my brain farts, because I have a lot and I edit them out. You don't see them on these pre-recorded things. I'm aware that I have some biases in this case, but because I have looked at so much of it and I have examined and dug into so much, so I do have certain beliefs. However, she is innocent of the specific charges until a court of law proves otherwise beyond a reasonable doubt. And there are times when somebody does something and it looks really bad, but there is what's called legal justification or excuse. And an example of that would be if somebody entered your home and attacked you, and in the course of defending yourself or your babies, you killed that person. Did your actions cause the death of that person? Well, yes. Does that make you guilty of murder? Well, you had legal justification or excuse, right? Which is self-defense. So in this case, even though we've seen a video, we've seen all these letters, we've seen her behavior, a defense lawyer might come up with an explanation or a defense in this case that shows she has some sort of legal justification or excuse, or that there is some mitigating factor. Mind you, the more she yammers on, the harder that's going to be to argue. So maybe a defense lawyer will be able to successfully provide such an explanation to a judge and jury. And in that case, she may be found guilty of a lesser charge. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer in Florida. I can't imagine what that legal justification and excuse might be. So we'll have to wait for trial. But she's not innocent. Now, I'm not talking about in the legal sense. And fair enough, nobody's innocent. No such thing. Except for maybe babies. When somebody is assessing her behavior or assessing what she's saying, that's not necessarily judging her guilty of the crime in a legal sense. When somebody says she is responsible for this man's death, well, that is a fact. The question is not going to be whether or not she's responsible. The question is going to be whether there was any kind of justification, excuse, mitigation, and whether or not she's guilty of the specific offense. Those are different things. And I don't know what the conversations were between her and her lawyer. We can't know. I don't even care to know. This is Sarah's characterization anyway. I mean, really, this is coming from her. I don't even know where to take that in a way that you're not already thinking yourself. She treats me as if I am not. Well, she's sitting there with a lot of discovery, a lot of information. She sought out a different professional on battered spouse. I don't know what happened with that, if that's something that Sarah doesn't want to do. She'd made mention in the past of not wanting to take the same path her lawyer wanted to take. Maybe the lawyer knows something, and it would be irresponsible of a lawyer to see all of the evidence and then lie to the client and pretend that it doesn't add up to what it adds up to. I'm not saying that's what happened. I don't know. But the lawyer has responsibility to tell the truth to the client, even if the client doesn't want to hear it. After my introduction and explanation with pretend judge in the room or on the phone, I am trying to help her understand how she is making herself extremely unwelcoming. If that was you in the lawyer's shoes and Sarah brings the pretend judge in the room, and just to be clear, the pretend judge is not something that Sarah believes is real. It's something she's using in, I would suggest, a condescending, offensive manner to try to control the lawyer. This lawyer who apparently doesn't understand things. And the lawyer is making herself extremely unwelcoming. Sarah, when you call your lawyer's office, it's not the welcome wagon, people. I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember that. It's not the lawyer's job to be welcoming. Should you be polite and appropriate and all that? Yes. How much, what does she want? Should the lawyer roll out a red carpet, bow to her, or just obey the pretend judge? Come on. But, everybody else is condescending. When in front of a real judge and in the courtroom is how she should treat me, her client, at all times. I should not have to invent a pretend judge in order to be, and am not at all wrong for wanting to be respected. No matter the outcome, I am innocent until adjudged otherwise. My attorney, everyone's, should be fair, unbiased, trustworthy, honest, supportive, informative, protective, automatically and effortlessly. So not only should you be all of these things. She's going to dictate to you how you should be it. So get right into your personality traits that it should be effortless for you. And she's making accusations again. She's saying, hey, when you see her in front of the court and she acts the way she acts, i.e. professional, that's not how she's acting behind closed doors. Okay, give a specific example. You're just throwing around words, just throwing mud. That's it. Nothing to back them up. And purposely tossing around these accusations when these alleged infractions occurred where there are no witnesses, or the witness who's there is not allowed to talk about it publicly. So back it up or shut up. And we're on and on about how she should be treated at all times. And she's saying that she should not have to invent a pretend judge. No, she shouldn't. And it's not that she has to. She shouldn't invent pretend judge because she shouldn't be that condescending and insulting to another adult. And she wants to be respected. Well, every human being deserves or should receive a basic level of respect as a human being. Anything above that has got to be earned. So it's the same garbage. Love me, respect me. Oh, if I don't get my way, that's disrespect. And she throws in everyone's. So my attorney, everyone's, meaning everyone's attorney. She's done this before where she has suggested that she is somehow advocating for everybody in the jail, everybody in the criminal justice system. And it's garbage. She's not. If she really was trying to address a systemic injustice, then that would be reflected throughout everything. But it's not. Everything that she says, everything she does is about her. Even from the time she called 911, she didn't want to do CPR. Even at the scene, her going in and getting a Dr. Pepper was more important than anything else, than those officers who had to do a job. And this person who she says she loves is dead inside that apartment. And she can't get a glass of water from somewhere else if she's that thirsty. So she has to go back in and get her Dr. Pepper. She wants what she wants it, when she wants it, how she wants it. I should feel secure, highly confident, proud in her representing my life. I do not and have said to her many times regarding her monumental disbelief in me and my case, which I believe contributes greatly to her inimical attitude towards me. I am hoping by this letter she will pick up the sword of injustice. I think she means the sword of justice, and fight alongside, not against me, as so many unmotivated, overwhelmed, weak attorneys prior who bowed out ungracefully and crept away from the battlefield unsuccessful. Oh, battlefield is right. Just not the one you think you're talking about, Sarah. All right. Let's go back to the beginning of this paragraph. I should feel secure. This is a key statement. This isn't, I want to feel secure. I would like her to help me feel secure. This is, I should feel. And then fill in the blanks. Once again, she demonstrates that other people are responsible for her emotions. How do you suppose that works in a relationship? People can do things that hurt you or make you feel glad, but ultimately you are responsible for your emotions and how you deal with that. Everybody else outside of her is a thing. They're all objects and tools for her to manipulate. And when the puppet doesn't do what she wants, she gets angry. When the toy she's playing with doesn't do what she wants, she tosses it or kicks it or smashes it or throws it in a corner or yells at it in frustration. People aren't people to her. And the responsibility for her behavior, her emotional state, is put on other people. What are you supposed to do with that? You can refrain from saying and doing crappy things to people. You can try to do something nice for somebody to help them have a good day. You can do things that might impact other people. But if they have a script in their head and you're not reading their minds perfectly and following that script perfectly, you're going to fail. And you know what else? With people like this, the rules change. Today, the script is this. Tomorrow or an hour from now, the script that you're supposed to follow might change, but nobody hands you your lines. She's making everybody else responsible for even how she feels. And she thinks, should be able to be proud of this lawyer. Where are you getting this? You should. Who made up that rule? There's a set of rules here as well. This is how it should be, according to who? According to you? And she's saying, I do not. And I think there's supposed to be a period there because I think she's saying she doesn't feel secure and confident and proud and all that. She's told the lawyer many times regarding the lawyer's monumental disbelief. Monumental. It's something that Sarah is putting this out publicly. What she's saying is her own lawyer has a level of disbelief that is monumental. The lawyer didn't get up in court and say this. None of her lawyers said this. I don't believe her. None of them got up and publicly said she's guilty. She's a liar, right? Sarah herself is disclosing to the world that even the lawyers, or at least this lawyer, doesn't believe her, and that disbelief is monumental. Now, why might that be? I'm hoping by this letter she will. So I'm hoping that by writing this horrible letter, it will force the lawyer to do something. Whatever the something is, doesn't matter. I'm engaging in this behavior and hoping that it will force somebody else to behave in the way I want. And pick up the sword of injustice is hilarious because I think she means the sword of justice. Fight alongside, not against me. Maybe the lawyer is fighting for her. That lawyer has a client who is not insane, okay? She's not insane. I'm not qualified to diagnose a personality disorder. I think that's what it is. You'd have to ask somebody who's licensed and able to say that. But this is who Sarah is. Let's put it that way. So this lawyer has this client who is like this, who left to her own devices will shoot herself in the foot. And we saw it from the get-go. And in listening to Brian and looking at the family court letter, listening to the neighbors, we see that she engaged in all kinds of self-destructive behavior even before all of this. So this is the kind of person that this lawyer has got. The lawyer may not fight alongside, especially if the kind of fighting or the direction is not a good idea. But the lawyer may be fighting for the client in spite of the client's self-destructive behavior. In the end, there are limits to what the lawyer can do if the client says no. Anything that Sarah doesn't agree with is perceived by Sarah as against her. You're all for me. You do exactly what I want, or it means you're against me. Everybody's a problem. You take each one of these words. Unmotivated. Really? You've determined that? And that's all of them? Is that correct? Is that what happened? Can't be that they're just dealing with what they've got to work with. There's a saying. I've said it before. Lawyers say, look, I don't make the facts. I just argue them. You can only work with what you got. Overwhelmed. Well, maybe they are, especially public defenders. They work like mad. And Sarah, if you're recognizing that somebody's overwhelmed because maybe they have a lot of work to do and maybe other defendants are equally as important as you are, maybe not demand all of the lawyer's time, or maybe not tip the scale so they become overwhelmed with your calling and demanding and complaining. And I am not at all suggesting that a client shouldn't be able to speak with their lawyer or talk to their lawyer. And sometimes a lawyer and a client will talk a lot. When it's necessary, you are talking to a defendant a lot and doing a lot. And then when it's not necessary, you don't. You don't just do make work. And everything a lawyer does has to be docketed. They have to account for that. So they can't just be the nanny for the day and charge for that. There has to be a reason. Weak. I point out that the majority of the attorneys are male. I could be wrong, but I'm suggesting here that the word weak is used intentionally, and it wouldn't surprise me if she's used that word or that kind of word to other men in her life. I could be too far afield here. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Weak attorneys. Prior, who bowed out ungracefully. I don't know. Ungracefully? I think they put up with an awful lot. And I think Hobson in particular, and there may be others, but it comes to mind that Hobson, I thought, was pretty graceful about it. And she uses crept away like they're snakes or creatures creeping away. Weak, creeping away, coward. And using the metaphor of a battlefield. Well, I suggest the battlefield is the interaction with Sarah. These lawyers are not new to the battlefield of the courtroom or the legal arena. They're not afraid of that. She is. If she has a trial, people will see the evidence, the truth will come out. That is terrifying. My case equals bizarre, unknown, different, ignorance. Oops, I'm forgetting the equals. Ignorance equals misunderstood equals unfair. So rolling that all the way back, her case is unfair. Her case is bizarre, therefore unfair. Your case is not unknown. Is it bizarre? In some respects, but it's certainly not complicated. And I've said this before, even a baby lawyer could take this. And bizarre doesn't equal unfair. And I don't know how different equals ignorance, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because this is just her mental convolutions here trying to once again say it's unfair. Oh, and the bizarre, different. That's a different way for her to convey, hey, I'm special. This does not mean my case can't equal success. And in more than one way. What does success mean to her? And in more than one way? What is she saying here? She wants an outcome, and people aren't dancing to her tune. But this outcome that she's talking about, the success in more than one way, it's a fantasy. She wants to fly off into the sunset with Superman, she as Lois Lane. Except it's not going to happen. And she has to blame somebody, anybody but herself. While everyone continues to ring their bells of malevolence, I am, underline, ringing mine of hope, honor, plausibility, boldness. Listen, maybe I'm just too tired to be doing this. I don't even know what to say. Bells of malevolence, and in quotations. What the crap? Do you think maybe it was malevolent to not let a guy out of a position in which you forcibly confined him when he is saying he cannot breathe? Do you think that might be malevolent? And laughing at him while he's dying? You think that's, what is that? Is that honor? I don't know what she's saying. Plausibility? Is she trying to suggest that there's a plausible explanation? Okay, let's hear it. Go to trial. Boldness. Well, yeah, actually, she's right on that. She's pretty bold. Listen. Oh, I think people are listening. They're not hearing the message you want them to hear. I am not a murderer. This is kind of sad. Go to trial, Sarah. Go to trial. Let all the evidence come out. Let it be seen. And you know what? Make sure that it is televised so that everybody can see the truth. And everybody will judge based on actual evidence, not vague mudslinging and lofty concepts used without any support, outraged outbursts because you're not being treated how you want. Go to trial. Go to trial and let everybody see the evidence then, if you're so confident. The justice system should equal fair, faith, trust, respect, innocent until and if adjudged otherwise. 3-point back. That 3-point back just grates me just because it's so condescending. How many of you listening to her saying, 3-point back. How many of you have killed somebody? Probably not a lot. And the justice system should equal fair. Yes, it should. The justice system should be a lot of things, and people will have different opinions about how all that should go. And sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it isn't fair. Sometimes you don't get the truth, or it is misunderstood, or somebody isn't represented well. There are a lot of things that happen that aren't fair within the justice system. It is flawed. It's not perfect. It's full of human beings doing the best they can. And most of the time, those human beings really do the best they can. Innocent until and if adjudged otherwise. Yes, innocent of the charges unless proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a high standard. Is she guilty of second-degree murder? That's for a court to decide. All of this here, a lot of what people are talking about and what she is spurring people to talk about, that she wants people to talk about her, a lot of it has little or nothing to do with whether or not she is in fact guilty of that specific charge. She can be not guilty and still be a pain in the arse and still be responsible for the death of that man and still be horrible and still be an awful, nasty person, can still be manipulative. Confused cat meme. Yes, thank you. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? I don't look at memes. I don't have time. This says page 1, but it's on my PDF. I'm looking at it. It's page 11, but it's page 1 titled June 4th, 2024, video visit 12 minutes. In addition to my previous letter intended for hand delivery on 6/7/24 at my status hearing, today my attorney made a video visit to go over everything I've been asking her for and have also sent to her personally in 2 letters, 5/25/25, all on the public video visitation box where on both sides of me, less than 5 inches away from my visit, other inmates were having their visits also. Notice she's saying today the attorney made a video visit. This is June 4th. So obviously this attorney is speaking to her and is going over everything with her and going over everything I've been asking her for. I have explained to my attorney numerous times, previously in writing and verbally, that despite the noise level, I do not in any way feel comfortable having in-depth private meetings regarding my entire criminal case on the visitation box where there is no privacy whatsoever, held in an open bay dorm with more than 62 others interested, all ears inmates. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go over anything in depth either in that circumstance. I don't know how it works in the facility that she's in, if there are private rooms available, or I know that when I've had to talk with people in custody, I've gone to the jail and you are put in a specific room to have that conversation. And there's also a room where there is a video feed where that is also private. So I don't know what the facilities are like where she is. So I can't comment a whole lot on that. I cannot fully participate, if at all, from the entire dorm, officer included, trying to participate also in my case. Well, don't know that they're trying to participate, but I bet you some of them do want to overhear. As always, my attorney did not listen or care after I repeatedly tried reminding her of my unsecure environment. Barking at me, I can listen or not, still going, over speaking, and not at all allowing me to respond. I don't know if the lawyer is saying anything particularly private or not, or if the lawyer is just providing her information. So it's pretty tough to make any remarks about that. After repeating to her over and over and over while she's beginning to speak louder and over me, still to please schedule an in-person meeting meeting where all can be discussed further privately with no success of being heard. I disconnected the visit telephonically. She uncooperatively. She is impossible. See previous letter or ask for a copy of the two I sent her. I was trying to remedy or lessen before sending this to you, Your Honor, and not having to include. Now it's a race to the pulpit. There's that pulpit word again. So on the one hand, somebody who's in custody and wanting to speak with their lawyer and not wanting to be overheard by others is a legitimate concern, but we know Sarah takes things out of context and she kind of plays fast and loose with the truth. So we don't know what the lawyer was saying to her. If it was just telling her about her next appearances, or I got these depositions, or we don't know, right? If it's something more in depth, then I can understand why Sarah would want a private communication. But I think the lawyer knows what the situation is in that jurisdiction and whether or not a private in-person meeting is warranted. There's another element here that is interesting too, and that's that in previous letters about previous lawyers, she complains that she's not had any video visits, not had phone calls, etc., etc. And it may be that she knows she's not, for some reason, going to get away with saying that here. So now she wants an in-person visit. I think the attorney is in the best position to say whether that in-person is necessary or not. So now it's a race to the pulpit. My question, please, who acts like that and still be able to call themselves professional? The visitation box is primarily for family and friends to connect. And if a must, from an attorney, reminders, notices, quick questions, not high-level confidential case information. Okay, yeah, that's true, but we don't actually know, because you can't depend on Sarah for the truth, right? So we don't know if the attorney's communication was one of these things and Sarah just didn't like it and wanted the in-person meeting. We don't really know. She, like other former attorneys who always blame their dysfunctions on me, said, "You don't like the answers I give you." What answers? See pages 1, 2, and 3. Capital letters. Hear this. What did she say in one of her interviews? Oh yeah, know this. Always. So everybody always blames their dysfunctions on me. Well, what do you think of that? She accuses others of exactly what she herself does. And the lawyer says, "You don't like the answers I give you." Well, she probably did say that because it's true. Oh boy, capital letters. I'm not going to yell at you, dear viewers. I'm not the problem, except that I want to and should be treated fairly with respect, acting more professional than the paid. I've been doing this for over 40 years, professional. After so long, and in all the experience, common courtesy, customer service, and listening skills should have been acquired. Can you imagine her in a restaurant and getting some food she didn't like or not like in the service? I think the term Karen should be changed to Sarah, or maybe Karen should be reserved for run-of-the-mill Karens, and super Karens should maybe be called Sarahs. Just a suggestion. I'm not going to go on and repeat myself about, well, I should be treated a certain way. I keep saying the same thing because she keeps saying the same thing, and I don't want to keep saying the same thing. All attorneys, do you remember why you even wanted to be one? Remind yourself. All people out there, here are some dictionary definitions of common words, just in case you didn't know. And all attorneys out there, Sarah Boone has a lesson for you. She has something to say. She has something to tell you that you ought to know. She has a direction for you. You are to follow her direction. Remind yourself. Let me ask this. What does she think the reasons are for why people become attorneys? I can tell you there are a lot of different reasons. It's not one single reason, and it's not always altruistic either. No one listens, and it works in everyone's favor but mine. That I am a murderer, stuck in jail, so they can pin on me they're uninterested, unmotivated, hopeless. They're going to believe me over her haughty attitude. I think she's not saying I'm a murderer. I think what she's saying is everybody's going to believe the lawyers over me, and we're back to that I'm disadvantaged. And this bothers me because there are people who are in vulnerable positions, who are disadvantaged, who have been treated unfairly, who aren't believed because of their legal status or socioeconomic status or their age or any number of other things that don't relate to whether or not they're telling the truth, right? So there are people in that position. So it bothers me when somebody who is manipulative and is clearly trying to hurt others and build up herself uses that as a tool or as a cudgel or a guilt trip to try to manipulate and hook the listener into believing something or doing something. And it makes me mad because every time somebody uses that sort of thing wrongly, it hurts everybody who is struggling with not being believed when they are telling the truth. Oh boy, we have capital letters here and then ultra capital letters. I am not wrong for, now we have to yell louder, not thinking less of myself because everyone else has and does this present attorney foremost. If your present attorney feels that way about you, I wonder why. And if this attorney was the only one, well, you might be able to say, okay, conflicting personalities. Maybe. You might be able to say, maybe the attorney is not a nice person. But it's not just her. The justice system expects me and other inmates, aka clients, to accept its subpar, nonchalant, hypocritical, next on the list attorneys they keep aimlessly throwing darts for and malappointing, praying they don't withdraw. First of all, Sarah, the reason that you get a court-appointed attorney is because you live in the United States of America. There are countries in which you wouldn't get that. And as an American citizen, you have this great privilege that the system wants to be fair and wants defendants represented. So you are privileged. And I suggest to the listeners that Sarah has been, despite her life circumstance, as we saw her before she was taken into custody, she used her privilege to the full extent that she could. And she feels entitled. The taxpayer is paying for this. And personally, I believe the taxpayers should help people who can't afford lawyers because we don't want people being treated unjustly. We don't want human rights or legal rights eroded. So there's a higher purpose to defending people who are accused. There's a bigger picture that is beneficial for everybody. In addition to that, these court-appointed lawyers are not making the big bucks. They don't get to set their rates however they want. And that does not mean that they are less capable. In fact, I suggest that some of them are more capable. They have a lot of experience and have seen and dealt with a lot of things, a lot of different kind of people, a lot of different kind of cases. They have built relationships within their respective jurisdictions. That does go a long way to making things work more smoothly, but they're working their butts off for less money than they could get elsewhere. And the taxpayers are paying. And Sarah is saying it is not good enough. It is subpar, as if she would even know. But it doesn't matter because for Sarah, everything is subpar. And the taxpayers and the system and everybody she encounters owes her something. She says nonchalant, back it up, hypocritical, back it up. Next on the list, attorneys. Okay, what do you want them to do? They keep aimlessly throwing darts for, okay. And she's brought up this throwing darts concept or metaphor in the past. What does she want them to do? To sit down and do a series of psychometric tests on both the client and the lawyer? Sit down and do multiple behavioral interviews? Or should we have like a jailhouse or courtroom episode of The Dating Game where the lawyer lawyers are matched. What does she want? Just no concept of the idea that other people in the system are working with what they got. They're doing the best they can. That it's not all about her. Capital letters and doubly capitalized letters and underlined. I have not fired any attorneys appointed in my case. Well, okay, maybe you didn't. You just made their lives a living HE double hockey sticks, right? You just put them in a position where they have to choose between all their other clients and you, where they have to choose between their integrity and your bottomless pit of demands and criticism. You just put them in a position where they have to choose between you and continuing to have a respectable career. And just like in employment situations, there is such a thing as constructive dismissal. This could apply from me expecting the highest equal standards possible for wanting the absolute best outcome in my preposterous mismanaged case. Is it reasonable to want the best outcome possible? Yes, it is. But the attorneys are not leaving because she wants the best outcome possible. That's not the reason they're leaving. I noticed too, she's saying expecting. I said wanting. She's expecting the highest and equal. I don't know what she means by equal. Equal to what? Equal to the most respected or the highest profile lawyer in America? Equal to what every other criminal defendant gets? How is it not equal? What is she saying here? And again, it's expecting. And it doesn't matter what she's given. She's not going to like it. Wants the absolute best outcome. Okay. Preposterous case. Yeah. The case itself is not overly complicated. It's not preposterous as a case. She makes things convoluted. She makes things preposterous. Her behavior is preposterous and mismanaged, again, slinging mud. And representing myself is not an option. Yeah, we knew that. As both judges have now threatened me with from being outspoken and intelligent in all my observations of the ongoing abuse I am and have experienced. I have no new experiences from it always being the same. Blame Boone. I refuse to be moved in wanting respect, no matter who everyone thinks I am. Clarity, inclusion, honesty, and professionalism. All right. I would be shocked if she actually wanted to represent herself. And I think if she is put in a position where the judge says, we're out of lawyers, you have to represent yourself, I think she'll pull something else like sit there in silence or have some outburst or any number of preposterous things that she could do to try to make things difficult for everyone. And the reason she will not represent herself is not because she doesn't think she's smart enough. She does. She thinks she's smarter than everybody. She's smarter than her lawyers. She has in the past, in correspondence, said to the judge, well, if you would just listen to me, then the whole justice system would be so much better. So it's not that she doesn't think she's smart enough. The problem is, if she represents herself and she loses, well, she can't blame her lawyer now, can she? She has to always set it up so that somebody else is to blame should there be a failure. And I think that is the case no matter what it is, big things or small things. She cannot take responsibility for anything. Everything has got to be somebody else's fault. Even if a lawyer did everything that Sarah wanted, in the end, if the verdict was guilty or she didn't get the outcome that she wanted, she would still find a way to blame that lawyer. It can't be her fault. So no, she's not going to represent herself. And if she's put into a position where she has to, she will make it HE double hockey sticks for everybody. And any failure after that is still going to be somebody else's fault. It'll be the fault of the system, the fault of the judge. And she characterizes the judges, plural, indications to her that, look, here are the consequences. if you keep doing this, this is what's going to end up happening. She characterizes that as a threat. It's not some uttered threat. It is a statement of, look, if you step off of this 10-story building, it's going to be really bad for you. And she is seeing herself and presenting herself as outspoken and intelligent. And earlier she mentioned challenging the status quo. She is this heroic figure in her fantasy. And once again, she's throwing around the word abuse. And I think that if she is going to attempt to use battered spouse, she ought not to be using that word, because she characterizes things as abuse that are not abuse. So she's watering down the power of the word. She's diluting the meaning of the word. It will make it difficult for her to later use that word to claim something, even if later on something happens that would be characterized as abusive. Nobody's going to listen to her because she's throwing around this word. It's a loaded word. I think it's telling when she says, I have no new experiences from it always being the same. And this is not a clue to her that, maybe if I keep doing the same thing, I'm going to keep getting the same result. Maybe if the experience is the same every single time, I need to take a second look at it. No, because that would require maybe looking at her own role or taking responsibility for something, and she will not. I refuse to be moved. And this is not a hopeful sign. She's already stubborn. She's already dug in. She has very specific goals and intentions in all of this, some of which is to make life difficult for other people and to get them back. And here, when she puts in black and white, I refuse to be moved, it's going to be a matter of pride now. It's going to be a matter of ego. She's not going to be able, because she can't take responsibility, she's not going to be able to take that back, to walk that back. And another great reason not to have my case meetings on the public visitation box is my personal confidential inmate information, such as my visitation list 2020 to 2023 with names, etc., my interactions with inmates and officers, what I eat, when, and my personal jail calls also being thrown online. For what? To hate me more, or try to get others to, because I don't eat breakfast, or because I don't know some Latin, have short hair, my penmanship is nice, or because I'm not getting fat and sleeping all day, but rather fully applying myself, fighting still, making everyone upset from not having to fabricate, mutate, splice, edit. The world apparently knows all. I'm not going to say too much about case meetings on the public visitation box because I don't know enough about that jurisdiction and what it is that the lawyer is meeting with her about. There may be a perfectly reasonable explanation for that, or Sarah might have a point. I don't know. I'm going to set that aside and get to interactions with inmates and officers, what I eat and when, and personal jail calls being thrown online. Yes, I've seen that online. I don't do videos on that stuff, but I know other people do. I don't think I'd like somebody judging whether I ate or not, or what I ate and all of that. And personally, I'm not interested in how long or short somebody's hair is or whether they're fat or thin. That's not a thing that I'm interested in commenting on at all. But I know some people are like that. And I personally wouldn't appreciate it either. And she says, I'm not getting fat and sleeping all day. And that's interesting. Are people accusing her of getting fat and sleeping all day, or is she accusing somebody else here? She says she's fully applying herself, fighting still. And again, here is that fantasy of that heroic warrior, the battlefield. This is how she's wanting to see herself now. So she is this heroic figure. She's some sort of savior, an advocate, or she's a disadvantaged, poor martyred victim. She does this flip-flop, right? And making everyone upset from not having to fabricate, mutate, splice, edit. What? I think she does fabricate and mutate and splice and edit and cuts out things like context or a whole lot of time that she hid while speaking with responding officers and speaking with detectives. The world apparently knows all. Yes, we get your sarcasm, Sarah. And actually we don't. And if there's something you want us to know, then have a trial. What's next? How many times I go to the bathroom and I'm not even reading that. No one knows anything or seems to want to from being comfortable in their corruption and striving to be on top with ratings, web hits, and money. My case details, if anyone forgot, and if you think about it, all that keeps getting plastered and plagiarized, posted, and poked fun at about me, it's all in my favor, proving myself right about all the mindless lemmings, shut-ins? Is that what that says? The justice system advantageously abusing and profiting from everything in my case before my trial and before I've seen. Oh boy. So no one knows anything. Actually, we do know some things and they don't look good for you. So Sarah, if there are other things that would help soften that picture or change that picture a little bit, maybe you should just have a trial. Let the evidence speak, nor seems to want to. Well, yeah, there are some people like that. There are. From being comfortable in their corruption. Does she know what corruption means? Should we put up, what dictionary does she use? Merriam-Webster? Should we put up that for her so that she understands what that means? Because she uses it incorrectly quite frequently and striving to be on top with ratings, web hits, and money. If she doesn't want it out there, why she keep writing letters to the world? Have a trial or shut up. Get the truth out there or stop just slinging mud around. Plastered, plagiarized, posted, and poked fun at. Well, I don't know what she means by plagiarized. Is somebody taking what she's written and claiming it as their own? Plastered. So it's plastered all over. That's what you wanted anyway, Sarah. Poked fun at. No, you can't control how everybody thinks, no matter how much you want to. And she says it's all in my favor because it proves myself right. She's proving herself right to herself about the mindless lemmings. Well, if they're mindless lemmings, Sarah, and you're so smart, why aren't they all mindlessly following everything you say and agreeing with everything you say? Wouldn't that be a closer definition of mindless lemmings? And shut-ins? Seriously, this is the second time she has targeted a group like that. Shut-ins? What are you saying there? You talking about people with disabilities here now? Is that what you're doing? Who are shut-ins? People who can't get out and be mobile in the community? Is that a derogatory term, Sarah? Is that what you think of people who have that kind of a challenge? But hey, let's be respectful and equal. This stuff makes me mad. She thinks the justice system is profiting from everything in her case. Please be sure to read my attachment for FRCP Rule 3. Am I the only one who thinks of these things? Am I the only one who thinks of these things? She's not going to represent herself, even though she's smarter than everybody and can think of this. When can I win in anything? It's coming. I am not the problem. And if anyone were to slip on my slides and have to experience, tolerate, deal with any of what I have and am, would bravely be doing the same. That's a sad statement because I think she has not been winning in anything since long before all of this, before she was taken into custody. Don't knock it till you try it. 3-point back. Race to the pulpit. Again, always, Sarah Boone. So what's this attachment? So she's going to cite some rules. So here's her attachment about this rule that she wants to cite. I'm not going to read it all. So she's got a star beside B, prosecutor's discovery obligation. By starring that, is she suggesting that the prosecution has discovery and that they didn't get it? Because I don't think that has been alleged by the defense. So I'm not sure why she's starring that. It's just a copy of all the rules. And here she's got H starred. Whether there has been any electronic surveillance, including wiretapping, of the premises of the defendant or of conversations to which the defendant was a party, and to any documents relating thereto. Does she think that she was wiretapped, or that there were some conversations that she had that were recorded and that are now in the custody of the prosecution? Is that what she's thinking? Why would she think that? And I'm not saying that she is thinking that. I don't know. I'm just noticing that that is a section that she has starred. Not going to read all this. So she is citing rules. What is the disclosure that she's saying she doesn't have? Does she think that the judge and the lawyers are not aware of these rules? If she wants to make an allegation about discovery or disclosure, she has to state what it is that she thinks that they have not turned over, demand that it be turned over, and she can, if she wants, cite the rules in support of her argument that it ought to be turned over. So she's citing rules. She's saying the world has seen something that she hasn't. She's not saying what that is. So I can't help, just given her pattern of behavior, I can't help but think that she's just throwing out this list of rules and the law sort of as a tool that falsely makes it appear that she has some substantive argument. Have you ever talked to somebody who, especially if you have expertise and the other person doesn't, have you ever talked to somebody who uses a lot of official sounding language that isn't actually attached to anything or isn't consistent with the rest of what they're saying? So they falsely bolster themselves. They're hoping that other people won't catch on, that they don't know what they're talking about. They're hoping other people will say, oh, using these big sounding words, oh, you must know what that means, or you must know what you're talking about. I think it's kind of like that. I could be wrong. You can let me know what you think of this. We're on page 28. I'm just scrolling along because it's all just her copying out of a law book. American Declaration of Independence, 1776. No Americans would know anything about that now, would they? No one in the justice system would know about that, right? Like, she has to remind them of that. And she's not even attaching it to anything. She's hoping that the reader will attach it to something and somehow give it some significance in relation to things that she wants. I think the argument in her brain is kind of vague, so she's just throwing this out there. Florida Constitution. Oh, client. Here's the definition of client. I'm not reading all that. She just sat around copying out stuff. Oh, now she's giving people the definition of duress. I think this one's important because earlier she said in this letter that the detectives were compelling and that the one detective wore his gun. And here we've got the definition of duress, and it's starred. I think that she is laying all the groundwork here because she's coming up with a claim that her statement was made under duress. So she might try and argue voluntariness. Now, I don't know that a lawyer is going to go along with that. It sounds to me like somebody in the jail said, oh, you need to do this. And so she is trying to preemptively bolster this argument that is going to come, whether that argument be through a letter or if she's going to try and get counsel to do that. She's talking here about in order to constitute a voluntary consent. All these things are pretty basic things that every attorney knows and every judge knows. So this is all, what is this? This is a map. Sorry, I am so dumb when it comes to tech. I'm not even sure how to flip this while I'm viewing it. But it does say publicity, exploitation, and saturation. And she's got this filled in. Okay, she's got a whole map of the world here. So first is the United States, and here we have everybody else. She's saying, to date, each star is a state where I have received correspondence via mail or message regarding my current criminal case. World map, page 2. To date, each star is a continent where I have received correspondence via mail or message regarding my criminal case. the number grows daily. Well, yeah, Sarah, you're writing letters. You're literally writing letters addressing the world. That's what you wanted, isn't it? Most all letters and messages are available for review and understanding of the impact of my case details being made readily available on the global internet, creating wrongful ignorance, hate, and massive prejudgment before my trial. Well, if somebody in Canada or the UK or South Korea has an opinion, it really doesn't matter because they're not going to be on your jury. And if you're concerned, then stop writing letters to the world. I don't know how you argue the injustice of having everybody know when you are endeavoring to let everybody know. How's that argument going to work out? I, the defendant in my case, have not yet ongoing 5 years fully reviewed or even seen all of my case details. Everyone in the world has already had the opportunity to do so themselves. This is repetitive. Should we start counting how many times she says things? Because, she's counting everything here, right? How many times does she say, unfair, I haven't seen my discovery, the world has seen, the various superlatives that she uses. We start counting those, maybe? Nah, it's not worth the effort. The continuation of the obvious exploitation allows the world to keep pressing their incorrect, presumed unfair theories, ideas, accusations, forcibly insinuating I committed criminal acts. Actually, Sarah, we saw with our own eyes. Now, whether you are found guilty of the crime for which you are charged is another question. But did you indeed commit criminal acts? We saw it on camera. The second he said, let me out, and you didn't, that was a crime. And it only got worse from there. And exploitation, I suggest to you that she is exploiting the system. My present attorney said it's not necessary to receive a court order I've been trying to obtain to download my case information to apply from the OCCD tablets. I have no idea whether that is true or not true, but I would tend to think that the attorney knows what she's talking about. My former attorneys are withholding some of my case contents I supplied to them and which have been deemed lost. Many other items have been returned not to myself, but to the next attorney, and which have been unable to be located to date. Okay. If the items are lost, then an accusation of withholding is a different thing. Withholding implies intent and that they have possession of it and are refusing to give it. Why on earth would an attorney who doesn't want to deal with you hang on to your stuff? Did somebody lose something? Maybe. I don't know. And would that be bad? Yeah. I vaguely recall something about a handwritten letter that she had given and it didn't get passed along. As for passed along to the next attorney, well, that's how it's supposed to be done. I'm missing innumerable case items, which I continuously request to be returned or obtained without success. Well, again, we don't know what they are. We did hear Cashman say in court, she says she didn't get this. She wants this item of discovery. I looked at it and saw her handwritten notes on it, but I still made sure she got a copy, even though she'd already seen it, obviously. More definitions. I'm not reading all this crap. Invasion of privacy, false light. I mean, you know what she's trying to say here. My personal individual criminal case is being advantageously exploited and abused, underlined from all of my significant, life-saving, suppressible case details. Evidence, proof being illegally obtained by coercion, trickery, duress, confusion, and without my permission. What? In any form, written or verbal, to anyone, then broadcasted, distributed, hand delivered to the entire planet, states, countries, continents, containing all of my potential jurors, causing irreparable erroneous falseness, greatly tainting my jury pool altogether by forcibly attributing heavily influenced, incorrect, inappropriate motives, theories, ideas. A lot of this is repeat, but she says from all of my my significant life-saving suppressible case details. Were there case details that were suppressed or that should have been, that got out there? Proof being illegally obtained. What is it that has been illegally obtained? And what is she talking about? Coercion, trickery, duress, confusion, all of that. Is she talking about somebody obtaining proof, what she's calling proof, and the evidence, case details? Is she alleging that that was illegally obtained by authorities? Or is she suggesting it was illegally obtained by members of the public? It's pretty wispy. It's like the clouds. You can't really pin down what exactly she's saying here. She's talking about tainting her jury pool, and she's going to have a problem because it's Sarah herself who keeps writing letters to the world. And she stated it is to the world. And in this letter, she stated that she is reaching out to potential jurors. So how is she going to argue later about this when it's her who's doing this? This obvious exploitation and invasion of my privacy is creating unnecessary, unlawful oppression, depleting all of my entitled opportunities to be given a fair, proper, successful conclusion of my case. This is just more the same. She's talking about invasion of privacy as she is putting out letters to the world. Is she talking about information that people have gathered about what she eats for breakfast? I don't know. Those things aren't going to stop her from getting a fair trial. And this just goes on. Again, prejudgment, unfair, violations of constitutional rights, due process. Honest to Betsy, she has been given so much leeway as a result of my case and personal life being publicized globally. Well, Sarah, you are publicizing it before my rightful trial. So her trial should be without disadvantage, partiality, deceitfulness, and dishonesty made from said evident exploitation. I think a lot of people, especially those involved with Sarah Boone, those who have to deal with her, I think they want a fair trial. They want a trial free of dishonesty. Wouldn't that be nice? They want a trial where the evidence that is admissible under the law, under the same rules of law that everybody else is under, where that evidence is presented and tested, instead of everybody having to keep their mouth shut while Sarah slings mud and arrows everywhere. She cites her definitions, and oh my gosh, she is basically, so this is all these words and the definitions for them because, you know, we're all stupid. We don't know what they mean, and we're so stupid we can't even look them up. So she has to do this for us. Could you imagine having to live with her? So this is how she treats the public, her and her fans, like idiots, creates a pretend judge for her lawyer, but she wants respect. And I am not reading all these definitions to you. There's no way. It's ridiculous. Oh my gosh. She published the dictionary. Oh, she starred coercion. I think she's going for something here. She is going to try to make that argument now. You watch. And that is it. Well, thank you, Sarah, for giving us all those definitions that I didn't have to read because everybody listening already knows what they mean. Because that means this isn't a 20-part series. That is it for Sarah Boone's letter. That's all I've got for you for now. Trust your gut. I'll see you in the comments.